Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing about Jyoti resins and adhesives. So first, let us understand the business model, right? So what does Jyoti resins and adhesive do? They manufacture and sell their own brand of glues under the name Euro 7000, right? So what do you mean by glues and adhesive? They are very niche. They have a very particular set of glues and adhesive that they sell that are used only and only for your woodens. That are basically used by carpenters, between either any kind of wood pieces. Okay, I've covered Jyoti resin and adhesive ka business model in detail. Just go to my YouTube ka business analysis playlist and find over there, right? So what has been the so if you look at Q4 FY23, that is last year ka, the end of the quarter of the last financial year, you saw that the company was growing at 25%, right? And as we were moving on to the new year FY24, the management had told, we can sustain this growth, we can continue to grow at a 25% guidance. They had given that, and I think the margins were I'm not sure exactly about the margins, but the top line they had guided was for 25%. Okay. So as investors, what is our duty? We continue to track and we see if the management has kept up, has walked the talk, has walked the talk with the guidance, and how has the situation been with the company? Because we all know, right? A business is a business is a moving chain, right? Because the world is also a dynamic place. You were never going to find a business like moving like this straight. There are always going to be like this ups and downs, but it is our duty as investors to stick with the businesses that are in the upward journey. Okay. So if you look at Q1 FY24, see, even in Q4 FY24, if you see, the revenue was flat in spite of the volume growth that was there 8%. Okay. Now we come to the Q1 FY24. Q1 FY24 mein kya hua tha? The revenue was almost flat, like just flat. Nothing was happening. Okay. Now we go to the second quarter of this year and we see that the revenue has been down. So overall, not a really great performance if you see, right? The management has not been able to keep up with the guidance. अगर आप देख तो इस साल का revenue has been down by 4% year on year as well as 3% quarter on quarter. But here is the thing: you will see that the margins that are there and the PAT that is there has been increased, right? You will see that the EBITDA margin जो है, it has been sustaining at 33% versus last year it was 20%. Last quarter, this quarter, no change. It is at that stable in that 30% odd. If you look at the PAT also, the PAT has been increased 8% year on year. Can you imagine कि like revenue घटा है पर PAT almost doubled, right? 80% से बढ़ा हुआ है. Now what is the reason for this? Of course, raw material का prices गिर रहा है, right? All because of this, since there is a fall in raw material prices and they really haven't decreased the prices of their end products. As a result, these people are getting this huge raw material ka, because of that they're getting a huge margin expansion. Like I've highlighted in my previous videos also, like this is a huge red flag, because until how long will you keep extrapolating this, right? Ultimately, jo bhi bola, aapka PAT at the end of the day, it has to increase at one point due to increase in top line. Otherwise, this was not sustainable also. That is one thing. Take care. See, now coming back to what is happening with the company is, one, the company has been falling back on the guidance. Take care. There has been nothing significant happening with the company. The second thing is, when like I've mentioned in my previous videos also, which I spoke about Q4. I mean, the 25% growth was, what okay, it was fine. They're doing the 25% growth, but is it sustainable? Was a big question mark. Like I highlighted, there was no capex happening here, right? With the existing capacity, how much can you again? Because see, see, the ultimate growth has to come if you again end up adding more and more distribution. ठीक है, वहाँ पे अगर ज़्यादा distribution करते हो, तो you will need even more capacity to cater to that. They have only, so Jyoti Resins and Adhesives, if you see, they have one plant in Gujarat, and since the time they have operated, since the time they have started, they have this one plant in Gujarat, and they have been increasing the capacity slowly. Okay. And right now, the company, the manufacturing plant has been operating at still 60% capacity utilization. Okay. That is one thing. There is no plan of capacity utilization, at least until the end of this year. Probably in FY 2025, they are planning to increase the capacity. Now, this will also increase because they see they are not very well in the southern part. Okay. If you look at Jyoti Resins and Adhesives, they are concentrated in Gujarat se thoda Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and the neighboring states. But they are not even present in the south of India. So that is why to attack the south of India, they would probably start with that. But that is something in the future, no plans. It is something they're planning to do. Okay? So something that you're planning to do, I'm not interested until and unless you're at least laying the groundwork and you're very sure about it to do. Okay? So first is that. The second is in terms of distribution. They told that they will increase. See, agar aapko zyada se zyada maal bikna hai, because here you do not have the ability to increase price as much as you can, right? Because you are always going to have a cap here, like until and unless the raw material price will increase, you can increase the price and pass it on to your customers. But having said that, if the raw material price doesn't increase, you will not be able to increase the price and pass it on, because your customer will obviously ask like, why to क्यों price increase कर रहा है, and they will prefer some other products over your products. ठीक है? So the majority of the part here you have to do is volume growth. And here earlier, if you see in the Q4 FY24, they had volume growth over north of 30%, double digit volume growth. That is why it was so interesting. Abhi aake there is no volume growth only in the company, and the company has been refraining from giving the volume growth. अगर आप Q4 में देखते हो, PPT में छप्पड़ फाड़ के लिखा था कि like, oh, हम तो 30% से volume growth कर रहे हैं. Q1 FY24, zero mention of volume growth. In fact, in Q1 last time, I think I didn't do this video for Jyoti Resins because the company didn't do con call. So if a company doesn't do con call, how will you know कि like ये सिर्फ एक quarter का it is a mishap, maybe some problem in the operations or nothing. But the fact that it has been happening for 2 consecutive quarters, it is just an indication that the demand hasn't that been great, or something is wrong with in terms of execution. Now coming back, if you see, like I told you, right, they had given the plans earlier that they have two. In terms of distribution, they were planning for 2 things. One is in Gujarat, Rajasthan, and MP. These are the states where they're currently very, very present in. They are present only in T1, T2, these kind of cities. So they wanted to penetrate into all these T3, T6, all these kind of cities, because they thought there is a lot more opportunities. That is one thing. And the second thing is they wanted to entrench into new states such as UP and Delhi. Now both of it hasn't happened. In fact, they're telling that in this con call, the management has told that whatever we are trying to expand here in these states, these new states, the realization of this in top line will come in the next year or 2. I mean, on one hand, you have companies like Indigo, where when they're doing distribution, it's like tick tick tick. The next quarterly, you're seeing it being reflected. And here in the likes of this, you're telling that it's going to take 2 years for it to be reflected on top line. That is indirectly telling like, what, we are not here to, there is basically lack of fire in the belly in terms of from the management. Okay? So that is where you're seeing like probably there is no growth. One, like I mentioned, capex nahi ho raha hai, distribution nahi ho raha hai, because volume growth is absolutely not there. Okay? And again, mentioning about that, volume growth is absolutely flat. There is no change in volume or anything. Other thing is, see, I understand with other companies, unko debt lena padega, there will be cash crunch and all. But if you look at Jyoti Resins and Adhesives, right, they have no problem. If you look at their ROE, the ROC, everything is top notch. I think it is again greater than 40%, right? If you look at their cash, if you look at their balance sheet, you will see there is so much cash in their FDs, in their savings and everything. So even if they want to put up a new capex, even if they want to increase the capex and go be a little bit aggressive, it is not a big deal for them, right? Because they have a lot of cash to fund their growth, right? Because the company ka ROE is around 35%, which means what, you can easily grow at least or equal to that rate without having to depend on other external fund, right? So the fact that you are not, there is the lack of, like I'm reiterating the point, there is lack of hunger in the management. That is one thing. Okay? So that is why I do not see this company like going forward, like that 25% of growth going forward, is it sustainable or not? The other thing I would like to mention is the management came in the con call and they were like, we are going to, I mean, they're still keeping it intact with the guidance. Okay? Like, I know we told FY24 may will grow at 25%, compared to FY23, but having said that, then you have 2 more quarters, Q3 and Q4, and they still want to achieve that 25% growth in top line and also maintain the margin around 25%. The question and the only and only hope that that they will be able to do this is 2 things. One, they're heavily banking on a very strong festive season, right? Very. This is the only thing. They're just hoping that due to excellent Q3, because rainfall come ho jayega and festival season hai, because of that they're banking on an extremely good quarter and hoping for a 25% growth. Even having said that, you see, right, the entire H1, like I told you, last quarter ka revenue was flat, Q2 ka revenue was down. So Q3 and Q4 will be even more stressed for them to achieve that 25% growth in top line, which means what, the company will have to grow the next 2 quarters by around 50 to 60% to achieve the target, which seems at this point nearly impossible now. Nearly impossible because of the fact they are not interested in expansion, they're not interested in increasing the capacity, right? So overall it becomes a very, very, how do I put this, like a very, very tough spot for them to even to continue to do what they're doing. Overall, it has been a quite disappointing result, because if you look at the likes of Pidilite has grown. At least, see, if Pidilite can grow, I think these people can grow even faster, because Pidilite is a huge giant, right? It is an elephant. If an elephant can walk, then of course this rat can run, right? I don't know if it's a right example, but yeah, right. If you look, Pidilite ko volume grew over, I think, 6% on a year-on-year basis. And Pidilite ko jo bhi problems aaya hai, it has come from the export market. If you look at the domestic market for Pidilite, there has been no problems. In fact, they see that the demand is very strong for the rural for the Indian markets over, let's say, the export market. Jyoti Resins and Adhesive has nothing coming from export market, right? Even if it is coming, it is very minimal. It is from the, hardly anything. Their majority like is coming from completely domestic only. So even here, considering all these factors, it has been quite a disappointing set of numbers. So we'll have to track and see, कि like Q3 and Q4 kaisa hota hai, if they are able to do, and if they are at least having any change of plans and seeing, capacity increase. Okay, if the distribution increases, and probably we see a volume growth. Another thing, I think, another thing to be noted down here is, अगर आप किसी, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल Q2 इज अ लीन क्वार्टर. अगर आप Q3 को Q2 से कंपेयर करोगे, so it will look like a bumper quarter, right? So one thing to look at is on year basis again next quarter, and to probably wait and watch for another quarter and see कि like it is not a one quarter effect, क्योंकि Q3 में तो obviously ज्यादा से ज्यादा सेल होगा. So I think we have to see if that Q3 का जो भी वो top line का growth करता है, is it even sustainable, right? That is very important, and probably not just one whip in the quarter at the entire year again goes flat. So that is very important. But overall a very bland set of result, and I really do not appreciate the managements that, like, do con calls during good times, and when there is bad times they just avoid. And also, you keep hiding the data, like whenever there is good volume growth, you put it, in the first page of your PPT, and when there is no volume growth at all in the quarters, you just don't even mention it. Somebody has to pester you in the con call and find out what has been the volume growth. So overall, not a great result. It has been disappointing. To be fact, Pidilite, over such a big base, has done way better than Jyoti Resins and Adhesives, right? So that's that for Jyoti Resins and Adhesives, and I'll see you again in another video. Chalo, take care. Bye.